Hello and welcome to this Open Farm Sunday Zoom webinar all about keeping your farm safe for visitors on Open Farm Sunday. So we're joined by some fabulous guests and we have a series of PowerPoint presentations that we're going to share with you, and at the end there'll be lots of time to ask questions and do a Q&A and discuss any issues that you might have or concerns. So without further ado, let me share my screen and we will start the presentations. So there we go. So Open Farm Sunday, the 8th of June 2025, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Jo Hatton and Mair-Chap, and of course we've got Jess Madge here, who's the other key part of the Open Farm Sunday team at LEAF head office. So just a quick reminder, Open Farm Sunday, the 8th of June, it's a really special experience to get the community out onto farm, learning about sustainable farming and the fantastic work that you're doing. If you're doing it for the first time, it's up to you to decide on the size and type of event. If you, a couple of months ago, had big ideas and it's not coming together, don't worry, just you can organise a smaller event, but please do host an event. Because every time you'll do it, you'll learn, you'll get new ideas, new experiences, and have a huge positive impact. So whether you organise a walk for 30 people or 300, it really is a fantastic event. So it's free to register. If you haven't registered already, please make sure you have, and then you'll get a copy of the Open Farm Sunday handbook and all the other support that we offer. So our first speaker today is Jo Hatton. If I can pass over to you, Jo.
Thanks very much, Annabelle. So I'm Jo Hatton. I'm the education specialist in the South and the Southeast regions, and my role involves working with schools and farmers and community groups and bringing them together to enable the next generation to understand where their food comes from. So I've been asked to speak to you today with regards to health and safety. Health and safety is a huge part of my role, particularly when supporting visits to working farms and training farmers through their CVAS accreditation to help them to understand how to manage risks and educate the public safely. So I'm lucky enough to be part of the South Avon and Stour Agricultural Society, and we support an event at the Biston Estate near Ringwood in Hampshire every year. It takes about 130 volunteers, and we have about 4,000 people come every year. And this is a really lovely aerial shot of the dairy and the field, the bit of the car park you can see on the right hand side there, which forms about half of the actual visit. From the dairy, visitors take a tractor and trailer ride to the woodland. They then walk through the woods to the calf unit, get back on tractor and trailer and come back. The reason that I thought an aerial shot would be quite an interesting starting point for this talk would be to show you really the importance of health and safety and what that can look like on a practical level. So this really clearly shows what we would determine as our clean and our dirty areas. So if you can see the hedge that runs from the bottom left-hand corner up into the top right-hand corner, that's effectively the track that the tractors and the trailers are travelling along. And that's our border, as it were. That's our the difference between our clean area and our dirty area. So all of the food and drink and all of the picnicking you can see happens on the right-hand side. There are on the left-hand side is where the toilets are and the hand washing and the boot washing. And likewise, when they get to the calf unit, the other end of the day, as it were. So we're just looking at how to practically manage that sort of clean and dirty area. And this year, some funding has gone through for us to have some actual boot wash as they come through that gap in the hedge as well. So really taking that health and safety to the absolute nth level. So yes, thank you, Annabelle. So here's some lovely photos from Biston. As I say, it's a day that's been running for a long time. We've got lots and lots of great memories, and it keeps developing every year. So yeah, and I'd like to say it's always this sunny, but no, we've had some quite wet years as well. Okay, so First thing to do then when we're thinking about our health and safety is to use a fantastic risk assessment template that is on the LEAF Education website for Open Farm Sunday. It's a really great risk assessment. It's something that I refer farmers to quite regularly, even if they aren't using it for Open Farm Sunday, because it really does have such a comprehensive list of typical risks and appropriate activities and actions to take to manage those risks. So do have a look and do use that. Do not have to reinvent the wheel at all. Annabelle and Jess have done all the hard work for you. So yes, so that's a great risk assessment, and that really helps you to form a process of analysing the risks on your farm and what you're going to do about them on the day. Thanks. So the first thing to do with your when you're managing risk is really to identify those hazards. So what we suggest with this, with any farm visit, whether you've got a school group coming out, you've got 2,000 public, you've got a family of 4 coming, is actually to have a fresh walk around your farm and identify anything that could be a hazard. What we find is that often we're the same in our homes. If we sort of get used to what's there and the risks that are there, and we just know that they're there and we avoid them, but actually you almost need a fresh pair of eyes. So if you've got somebody that can come and help you with this, that doesn't know the farm perhaps quite so well, actually that's a really useful part of the process to identify those problem areas and what they might be. Thanks, Annabelle. And so, whether or not that risk is medium, high or low, obviously that's going to be determining the activity and the action that you take. But do you think about having that fresh pair of eyes? On the next slide, there's some great examples of risks that we've identified while we've been out and about. Obviously, bale stacking, super important, but there may well be areas like this on your farm that you need to avoid and you need to cordon off, or that you need to rearrange. And that risk assessment, that walk around, is a great opportunity to recognise those. The ha-ha is there because a colleague of mine organised a farm visit, and the farmer went through the risk assessment and everything, and then didn't realise that actually there was a really sheer drop at the bottom of their garden. So all these children were picnicking in the garden, and actually there was an incredibly, I think it said it was something like 3-foot drop after the ha-ha sign that of course hadn't been included on the risk assessment. So that dynamic risk assessment, really, really important. But the theory is that we have that fresh pair of eyes and we recognise them before the actual event takes place. Okay, so one of the things that's going to really feature on your risk assessment is the managing of germs and diseases and zoonoses. And so we really talk a lot about hand washing on farms. It doesn't matter if you've got livestock or not. Any sort of risks on a farm can be managed through hand washing. So it may be something that you hire in, that you buy, or perhaps something that you make yourself. We have, my team and I have hand washing that we take around to farms. It's really mobile. So it's basically just a camping water carrier that's got hot water in, soap dispensers and rolls of paper towels. It doesn't have to be super fancy. It just has to be appropriate for what you're doing and the number of people that you've got on your farm. Next slide. Thanks, Annabelle. So it's really important that it's running water. Ideally warm running water, but to be honest with you, what you find in the summer is that actually if it's cold water, then people will actually wash their hands for longer, and that's what we're aiming for. It needs to be liquid soap, and it needs to be antibacterial liquid soap. So yes, it's great if it smells nice, but actually what's more important is that it actually gets rid of those germs. And it needs to be blue paper towel or paper towels going into an open topped bin. So not one that they're washing their hands, they're drying them, and then they're lifting the lid and putting it in. It needs to be an open top bin. And that works really, really well. Lots of different ways of making hand washing setups. And we've got some great photos to show you on the next slides. So it can be really bog standard basic. I mean, the one on the right hand side is pretty much what we do. We have an open top bin, however, that one isn't. Need to take the lid off. And we have soap dispensers that hang up on the wall, and that they're pretty much like the ones you get in public toilets. And that's what we have over a water trough. Works brilliantly. Lots and lots of people can use it. You're not going to run out of water, which is great. Some of the other setups you can see slightly more creative, but it all works. It's all just temporary. So something that you can put up and take down and just have it there when you need. You could, on the next slide, be a little bit more permanent. And these are more sort of petting farm type hand washing setups. What's important really is to think about the height of your visitors. So don't have anything too high if you're expecting children to be able to use it. Or if it has to be high, have something sturdy that they can stand on. And it's thinking about also where you put that hand washing. If we go on to the next couple of slides, yeah, some more sort of examples. If we go into here, look, can you see how we've thought about where the risks are, the dirty area, and then we've got that hand washing at the end. So it's really thinking about those clean areas, those dirty areas, like I talked about before, we're on our farm that we're using, and think about making sure that that hand washing is the right place. Absolutely, I would recommend if you're hiring in portable toilets, don't hire the portable toilets that have hand washing inside them because it slows down the use of the toilet. And also those hand washing facilities aren't great. Having the hand washing outside of the portable toilets is much easier for people to use, much more obvious. And it means that people are getting through your toilets quicker, but also people can use the hand washing even if they're not using the toilet. So thinking about your hand washing bin between the contaminated, the dirty area and where people are going to eat. Also thinking, as I said earlier, about foot washing as well. That's something to be thinking about too. Certainly on school visits, we wash our wellies and then we change into clean shoes at the end of the day, and then we wash hands and go home and ask that people wash and disinfect their clothing and their footwear post-visit. Not appropriate for Open Farm Sunday, but it's still good practice to think about sending people home with clean footwear. And also, of course, wheelchair wheels and pushchair wheels as well. So thinking about what that's going to look like on your farm. Some really great examples of temporary facilities. I particularly love this photo in the top left-hand corner. We talk about children touching animals, and it's so important that they get that tactile experience is so important. But actually, it's a lot less stressful if that's held by an experienced person and the children are just stroking it, rather than children sitting down and putting a lamb on their lap. It's quite stressful. They're going to get covered in poo. You've got a whole issue there with health and safety. Think about minimizing stress for the animals, but also enabling lots of people to get that experience. And the hand washing obviously happens straight after. It may be that if you've got contaminated areas that are spread out, you need more than one hand washing station. Think about small people putting fingers in mouths. Think about where those risks are and the distances between the contamination opportunity and the hand washing. Thank you. So, as I said before, really thinking about where the eating takes place. Obviously, no smoking. Thinking about providing eating areas is a great way of containing people and actually getting them to eat where you want them to eat. Sterilizing dummies, not just give them a quick lick and putting them back in, always to recommended. I love children having the opportunity to be licked by a calf. I think that's a really special opportunity. We just need to make sure that they're not then using those hands to eat an ice cream or something. Okay, thank you. So we talked about lambs before and about stroking them while they're being held by an expert. It's really important that we have signage up and we're aware of the risk for pregnant women, and we're advising that pregnant women are not too close to anything that's just recently given birth. For us on a school visit, we say that we shouldn't be touching any livestock that's less than 3 days old. And that's a really good sort of guidelines to work with, because then that amniotic fluid is very much gone. And that's something to think about in your advice. Obviously, vaccinated animals can still be infectious. So, again, thinking about the animals that you're actually involving within the day, making sure that they are super healthy, they're not having any sort of additional stress, so that they aren't going to be more likely to carry anything, which would be a concern. And we've talked about welly washing. These are great examples here. We've also often used those mats, which are quite coarse, that you can put the antiseptic, the chemicals onto for them to walk through. Those will also work really well. Think about what's appropriate to your farm. And if there is going to be an issue with contamination, is there possibly another route that they can take where they're not likely to contaminate? Pushchair wheels are really, really susceptible to carrying those types of bacteria that we don't want to be sending home. So do think about those routes that people will be taking. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got some examples here of managing people coming in and people going out. It's important, you should be having biosecurity onto your farm as well as away from your farm. And it is a good opportunity to corral people. Think about the speed of people coming through, though. I mean, at Biston, we have a lot of people coming through. So we had to reorganize our entranceway and our biosecurity to make sure that it wasn't becoming a problem and actually a danger in the car parking area when people are trying to enter the event. So think about the locations on your farm. Thank you. Next one. Okay, tractor and trailer rides, always an absolute highlight of the visit. In fact, I was on a farm there yesterday with a lot of farmers and professionals, and they were all still very excited about tractor and trailer rides. So yeah, brilliant. We actually hire ours in or borrow them from the local agricultural college. So you don't have to own your own. Sometimes we've got a cluster group near us that have also got one that lend us to us. We have 6 trailers running all day. It's a huge part of what we offer. But it's super important that we are going it very safely, because particularly if you're going onto the highway, and the public highway is basically anything if you've got a public footpath going across your driveway, then that is public highway. So think about your maintenance records for your tractor and your trailer. Think about using the guidance from HSE. There is the A15S. I'm trying to think what the number is. There is guidance, and it's on the Open Farm Sunday website for the features that your trailers have to have, independent brakes, railings of a certain height, fixed seating. You no longer can you just put people in the back of a pony trailer and take them wherever you want to. There's a lot more guidance now around using tractor and trailers. If you are at all unsure, take a photo and send it to Jess, and she will let you know whether or not it's appropriate. It's just not worth the risk. But if you get the opportunity to include it in your visit, then absolutely do. Definitely a positive. Thanks, Annabelle. Yeah, and these are ones to which you've said no. So although they're good fun, really not appropriate. So not good trailers. Okay, so minimizing injury. I've talked a lot about planning the route and think about where is safe and where it isn't. Signage is really important, and Open Farm Sunday website has some great signs which you are very welcome to use. But think about also, if you are having lots of people standing in front of a gateway, is it the best place to put the signage? Is the signage perhaps better off going higher up? Where is a good place to put your signs? If people are going to stand in front of it, it's not going to work. Okay, having signposts that say wash your hands are great, but then have an arrow on there telling them where to go to wash their hands. So think about those signs, where they're going to go, what they're going to say. Thank you. Okay, so hazardous areas, think about your barriers. Barriers are great for children to climb on. So if you're going to have barriers, make sure that they are child appropriate. And if they have a sign saying do not climb on the barrier, that's obviously great for your risk assessment. Make it super obvious that it's not a climbing on barrier. You might have climbing on things at your Open Farm Sunday, but the barriers really shouldn't be one of them. A highlight of ours is always the pooper scooper that puts all the slurry down into a big pit. Children spend hours watching that. So, think about, how great that they want to watch the poo sliding around on the floor, but, how is it safe for them to do that, and make sure it's not in a walkway. If you've got grain stores that you're letting people into, have somebody there to manage them, but also great for them to touch the grain, love that, but they should be on their knees. So rather than climbing up the grain, they should be on their knees and touching it in that way, and then obviously washing hands quite soon after. And obviously we talked about things falling on people's heads earlier. Okay, thank you. This is a great example of a barrier that actually isn't going to keep the children away from the cows. You can't quite see the cows, they're at the back of the photo. Not only is the area not super keen, the barrier is climbing out to be climbed under or crawled under. So this is an area that we wouldn't be including on the visit. We would be accessing the cows from another part, just bound by the grass.
Super, yeah. Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Super.
Okay, machinery and demonstrations, always super popular, but think about where people are going to be in terms of where the tractor are. Don't leave the keys in, maybe deactivate the horn. Think about sharp bits, think about where people are going to be watching, what can they touch, where are they going to catch parts of their clothing as they're walking around. One of the lovely farms that I work with makes a really amazing ramp out of pallets for the children to be able to go in and out of the combine, which is amazing. But there is somebody there managing that, and that is parents' responsibility to do it. So think about how to manage those risks. Okay, food. So we have lots of food producers that come to our visit and they then give us a percentage of their takings for charity, which is just fantastic. And it's all local producers. So it's a really good um, opportunity to promote local produce. But it's really important that we don't get into any sort of tricky areas. There are some great links on the Open Farm Sunday handbook to help you with those conversations around food, making sure that they've got the right food standard agency qualifications. And again, thinking about where you're going to be locating them. So nowhere near any livestock. If we're picnicking, it needs to be an area that hasn't been grazed for 3 weeks. All poo in that field needs to be at least 3 weeks old if anyone is going to be eating anywhere near it. So again, thinking about what that's going to be. And helping people perhaps to not be sitting on the floor, maybe having some straw bales with covers on is always great. But there is guidance out there. Fantastic. First aid, again, appropriate for your event. If you've got community responders near you, great opportunity for them to come and promote what they do. Perhaps raise some funds. St John's Ambulance, British Red Cross, private paramedic company. If you know somebody that perhaps runs one, that's quite useful. But yeah, your first aid should be appropriate. You administering first aid is really the responsibility of the public to be responsible for their first aid. But if you could provide those facilities, that's obviously great. So do think about that. Okay. Right. So you've done your risk assessment, you've got your plan, you've got your route, you've got your hand washing, you've got your boot washing, everything is set up. It's time to have a conversation with everybody that's helping you on the day. It may be just you and a friend, or it could be, like in our case, lots and lots of people. So having conversations, identifying how the day is going to run, what to do if there's any problems, having some sort of radio system or a phone list is always really useful. Because we have such a large number of people, we have heads of section effectively, like an agricultural show, and they attend the meeting, they walk the route, everybody knows what's going on, and they disseminate that information. So yeah, think about that communication, think about having a buzzword if there's a problem, that kind of thing. Okay, and yeah, health and safety law. So if you've got more than 4 employees, you should certainly have your farm risk assessment written down anyway, health and safety policy and your cost risk assessment, making sure that you've got those available. It's good practice. You're inviting public onto your farm. It's good to have yourself covered and to go through the processes and the thoughts that are required for all of those beforehand. And again, lastly, but not least, your personal safety is so very important. So make sure that your helpers, your staff, your volunteers, their security is safe. They're never left on their own with the public. They've always got support. If you're home and you've got businesses and offices nearby, make sure everything's locked up. Farm security, make sure everything is put away. And if there are areas of farm you don't want people to go, and then cordon it off. If you want to have the local police involved in the day, the local police come along and support our visit and have a great drone and take footage, as you've seen. So inviting them along, the rural police will really love an opportunity to be seen and to have an opportunity to engage with the public. So do that. And as Annabelle and Jess will say, and I will say, do ask if you've got any concerns. The support is there at head office. The handbook and the website are fantastic, and have an amazing time.
Brilliant. Sorry, I put myself on mute. Thank you very much indeed, Jo. That was
Welcome.
phenomenal. Phenomenal. Thank you very much for covering so much in such a short period of time. Well, now it's an opportunity for us to hear about one of our wonderful farmers, Mair-Chap, who's been our Open Farm Sunday ambassador up in the northeast, but took part in Open Farm Sunday and hosted 5 events. So, Anne, are you ready to take over the reins and talk about your Open Farm Sunday event and health and safety around it?
Indeed, thank you, Annabelle. Jo, that was absolutely brilliant. So yes, I'm Mair-Chap, Northeast Ambassador for LEAF Open Farm Sunday. Have been for 5 years, funnily enough, hence why I'm now coming up to my 5th Open Farm Sunday. And I'm just going to mirror quite a lot of what Jo said, but also talk to you about not being overwhelmed by things like your risk assessments and all the paperwork that goes with it, because a lot of it is common sense. So just flick on to the next slide there, Annabelle.
Oh, yeah.
So we are a 372-acre mixed arable and sheep farm in, well, we're probably the most northerly in England to host, or usually we are. Family farm, so we are very much a family event. We have myself, my father, my mother, my 2 sons and my husband. We run the day. And it tends to run fairly smoothly. Having started 5 years ago with just a private invite only, 60 people invited. We've grown to over 275. We've opened up 300 tickets this year. Usually really well attended, but quite easy for us to police because we only open up the one farm, whereas other places might open up their whole sort of farm system. Sorry, I don't know if someone was asking a question there. We open up the one farm, and you can see on the left-hand side of the image there coming through the wood, that's our one entry into the farm. So there is no other road in, no other road out. That's incredibly easy for us to police, but it's a bit tricky for people to then leave. So we have to have someone on our road. There's one passing place, so we have to have someone on the road kind of going, yes, they can come, no, they can't. So we've got to, that's our one sort of tricky spot. Easy to police people coming in, but very tricky getting people in and out when you've got a 2-way requirement on the road and it's only a 1-way road. So that's something to think about, is your access and how you're going to manage it. That's our biggest sticking point, but we man it. So we have mobile phones or radios where we can have 2-way communication, and we can figure out who's coming up the road, who's going down the road. So that's our sort of one sticking point there. The rest of the sort of welcome area, I don't know if how we can point this out. Where's your, yes, so just, yeah, basically if you come left there, Annabelle, just there above that shed, that is our main welcome area. So that's really straightforward. We park in the field below that, Annabelle. Yep, so all the parking section is right of that area, and we park below there, and then everyone filters through the gate and into the welcome area where they're greeted by whoever's manning at the time. So it tends to be myself and my children, and we do have a conversation. So because it's not a massive event, yes, it's busy, we're able to physically speak to everyone that comes on the farm. So I find that quite important for us. So whilst you can have as many signs up as possible, I do like to verbalize the health and safety and the kind of really basic information that you can get across in a quick conversation and a quick greeting. So I find that quite important as well. The welcome area, can you flick on a little bit, Annabelle? I'm not too sure what's coming next. Yes, perfect. So the welcome area, you can see in the bottom right-hand picture there. We have a table to the right-hand side, and then we have signs. I am very, very happy to display as many signs as possible because you cannot underestimate the amount of sort of people that will come and ask something, or we have repetitive signs all over the place. So don't just have them in one place, have signs all over the place saying what you need to say and pointing them in the general direction of where they need to go, the toilets, the hand wash, the boot wash. We do tend to have a few sort of market stalls as well, or farmers market stalls, which you'll see on the top left-hand corner here in one of our sheds. Again, a very central point. They don't need to wander far to this. We are everything is very, I suppose, nearby the welcome area. So it's easier for us to man, but everything is signposted. Anything below that and areas that we do not want the public to be accessing are barrier taped off or barrier gates off. And it's very important to make those obvious. So again, no entry signs on there, barrier tape and barrier gates. We do tend to have people floating about making sure that that is indeed the case. And I think that's quite important. Don't just expect the public to not go beyond where you've asked them not to go. You do need to have eyes on those spaces as well. I think that's vital. We do obviously have livestock in place here as well. The livestock is penned up, generally in pairs of various different breeds, and the hand wash station is very, very close to here as well. So each area that's penned up states, please don't feed the animals. If you do touch the animals, then please go and wash your hands straight away afterwards. we do have someone manning the hand wash station. So that is made incredibly obvious to all the visitors there as well. And we do request that they do boot wash and hand wash before they leave. And as much as you can police that, I'm going to say I can't necessarily enforce the hand washing bit, but you do, you know, you have to sort of try and get that message out there and see if you can get as many to do it on the way out. We do have food available on the day as well. There is a hand wash station next to the food as well. And the lady that's doing all the catering is kind of putting them that way and manning them sort of before they come to her as well, which is quite a good way to do it. Next slide, Annabelle. Yeah, I mean, there's just a few more of sort of our setup there. Very, very straightforward. Coming in the welcome area, you would turn left from the welcome area down into the shed for a farmer's market, where we use the local crafters and producers. Everything is within 50-mile radius. And then the farm walk is back up to the welcome area, turn left, and then everything is signposted. So going back to what Joe said earlier, putting a fresh pair of eyes on the place is a really, really good way to do it. Absolutely, because I can drive about here every day and you will miss stuff because you're not looking for it. So someone who isn't used to being here, or someone who isn't even a farmer, would be a really good way to do it. Get someone onto the place and just get them to walk the route and say, right, what did you notice? What do you think could be a hazard? I think is a really good way to do it. Certainly taking a drive around in the weeks coming up to your event, and just putting up your signs as you need to go, making it really, really obvious if you're doing a self-guided walk like we do, so there's no option to get lost. So making sure your signs are in place. And again, the morning of the event, we always drive around first thing in the morning just to check that we don't have a sheep stuck in the fence or all those silly things that can go wrong in the morning. So eyes on the place first in the morning, make sure you're happy with it. And then we do another drive around middle of the day as well to make sure that nothing has happened. There's been no litter left, there's no gates open, etc. So it's worth having someone on that route during the day as well. Right, I don't think there's much else to say other than if we've got some small machinery. We're not a big arable farm. Small machinery display on a sort of display as you walk past on the way to the walk. They are taped off usually with one tractor where we have photo opportunities. That is manned. There are no keys obviously in it whatsoever. Keeping someone there manned all day for photo opportunities. Your animal health, your chemicals, your fertilizers, if they can be moved away from where you're working and locked away, that would be absolutely fabulous. We tend to put anything like that down at the other farm, bar the animal health, which is locked away. But it is more often than not a lot of common sense, I would suggest. So don't be overwhelmed by that, by the risk assessment. The first time I looked at it, I was horrified because I was just like, oh my God. But it really is a lot of common sense. And you'll go through it and you go, actually, we're doing that. And if you're not, it makes you think. So that's what it's about. It's about making you think about the things that you do daily, and then how to make it safer for the public to come on. So it's not, don't be overwhelmed by that. Do it once and then crack on like we've done, and then suddenly think, oh, I can do more. Because we're not at the 3,000 people stage, but it's, you'll enjoy it and it's well worth doing it. And I've always said to Annabelle as well, it's a great way to keep your farm tidy. So doing it for the first time, tidy your farm up, and then your farm stays tidy year on year. It's brilliant.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That is absolutely brilliant. Really appreciate that. So thank you to you, to Joe, to Anne, and also I have to say, of course, a huge thank you to our sponsors acknowledged in this slide. Without financial and in-kind contribution, we just couldn't go ahead with Open Farm Sunday. And I've just got the one more slide, which is looking at, just mentioning again, this is one of our series of Zoom meetings. We've got one left on the 29th of May. That really is just an opportunity to discuss events, talk a Q&A session, if anybody just has any last minute queries that they just want to discuss, and we can just go through some last minute top tips. But definitely, if you're new to doing Open Farm Sunday, we ran 2 webinars called Discover OFS, first time hosting. Both of them have got great case studies in, and all the others have just got some fantastic examples of our wonderful farmers who are opening their farms for Open Farm Sunday. So a huge thank you. I'm going to stop sharing there, actually, because I'm pretty sure we've probably gone over time for how long we were planning to. Are there actually any questions at the moment that anyone would like to ask? I don't know if there's anything in the chat. Oh, yes, okay, Ellen, if you'd like to come off.
Oh,
yes.
hi. Sorry, I missed the first sort of 5-10 minutes. I had to go and rescue my husband who got stuck in the fen. So that's life. You might have covered it, but I just started at the hand washing, and this is our first year. We're running quite a limited event. We've asked for we're going to do 2 guided walks with 40 people on each walk, and most of our walk is on what are normally public footpaths anyway, so it's quite limited in what we're opening up. So the farmyard is where we'll base the sort of welcome and everything, and that's where we'll put the hand washing. But I'm not sure that we even have a water point in our barn. I mean, the farmyard we kind of operate, contractors come in and it all comes from a different place. So we're going to have to hire in some toilets. But just thinking about the hand washing, everything that you showed the pictures of that I saw looked quite involved, which is making me a bit nervous and thinking, oh my God, do we need to start building some hand washing facilities? What's the most basic? Can we get away with an IBC of cold water and a
Yes.
Joe, can I
water underneath?
Yeah.
You obviously you didn't come to one of our farmer meetings. We held 2 farmer meetings this year in York and in Yattendon, and Joe very kindly supported the Yattendon estate. And you had a great solution there for our 40 people who were trundling around doing the workshops in the field. Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have in the back of my car, which I take to farms, and it would probably wash 60 hands really helpfully. Is basically it's a water carrier that you would take if you were camping, which has a tap on it. So if I'm running a farm visit, I'll put super warm water in at the beginning of the day, and then by lunchtime when we want to wash, and the end of the day, it's at a really nice tepid temperature. You've got a tap on it. I used to have a pickup truck, and I would just put it on the back of the pickup truck, and it would hang off, and then it would just go onto the ground, and that works brilliantly. It's the liquid soap is really the important bit, the liquid antibacterial soap, and if you can get foaming soap, that's even better, because then they don't need to wash their hand, they don't need wet hands for the soap to go on. So foaming antibacterial liquid soap, running water from a water carrier that you take camping, and then blue paper towel and an open bucket for a bin. So super basic. It works well.
And presumably you could use a bowser as well, or a water bowser, if it was clean and had clean water in it. That would work as well. I've heard of farmers talking about how they've had this issue in a field, and so they've just set up and filled with clean water a water bowser and just had the tap.
Yeah. I had a great
people
a recently trained farmer that I worked with for his first visit. He'd seen my water carriers and he was like, I can do that. And he'd got an IBC and he'd put it up really high, so that obviously there was then the water pressure, and then he had hoses coming down and taps coming off it and everything. It was like, you take your water carrier, this is how I do it. I was like, that's impressive. If that fits in the back of my car, maybe. But yeah, it's that running water that's really important, and where that's going to run off to. So if you can do it onto grass, it's just going onto the grass. Obviously, that's great. If I'm on tarmac, I'll generally have like a big bucket. So I'll have one for rubbish and one for collecting the dirty water.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Can I ask all my questions?
Yes.
So the other thing that was, I think I mentioned briefly to Jess yesterday, was just slight nervousness about the first aid situation. Again, as most of the walk is on what is public footpaths, it feels like the increased risk is fairly minimal because you're just coming onto the farmyard, but nonetheless, obviously we're responsible for the public. And that I don't quite know what to do about that. We can buy a first aid kit, but we've got some volunteers coming to help, but I don't know that anyone will have any first aid training. So other than making sure that we've got a contact list, phone signal that we can call, you know, the ambulance, and we know the what 3 words sort of pick up points if emergency services need to come. Is there anything that we should do more than that?
If you have employees, you'll have a first aid kit for your employees
No.
anyway on farm. You don't have that. So, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I would completely agree with you. I think it has to be reasonable for you and the situation that you're in. If you're walking through nut trees or handing anything which is like to be an allergy, then obviously that would be on your risk assessment, and that's something that you would mention. So, for example, if we were going into a grain store, you just obviously check you didn't have any celiacs with you, that kind of thing. Yeah. I think as long as it's reasonable for the number of people that you've got on farm, everything that you've just said to me sounds very fair. And as long as that is on your risk assessment, absolutely fine.
Thank you. And again, for the people who have run it before, so we've got our try booking linked up, which is great. I'm amazed to see that half the tickets have already gone. We haven't really told anybody about it yet, so they must have been looking through your Open Farm Sunday website. But maybe Anne, so we've got bookings for it, but I assume once we put up the sign, other people might just decide to swing by. How do you manage the people who might just turn up, and, you know, is there a risk that you suddenly got a lot more people than you were anticipating?
Yeah, that has happened in the past to us. So we tend to open up a number. So this year we've opened up 300. What you do find is you will get the majority of people will turn up, but some that have booked won't turn up. So we tend to end up with the kind of the ones that appear without a booking, covering the ones who didn't turn up but did book. Because our tickets are free, I think if something else came up that they wanted to do, there's no onus to tell us that they cancelled it, and it's a bit of a bone of contention, that one. But so we do put out our signs a fortnight beforehand, so you will get the passers-by and the tourists going, "Ooh, let's go and do that, Wilson, today," or whatever, you know, and they come up and they haven't booked. And I think that's just it's a chance that you have to take, really. So you can't put a limit on the day. If you get to where you are and where you're happy with, it's your farm, so you can say, "I'm afraid we're actually fully booked." Maybe have an alternative that they can go to that you can suggest, because whereabouts are you based?
Just on the edge of Cambridge, so
Yeah,
there's not very many other.
Is there not very many? Right, there was probably more than there is around here. But I was maybe have a look at the map closer to the time, see if there's anyone else that is hosting it nearby you, so that you can give them an alternative should you decide that there's too many coming on the farm at one time. But yeah, when you advertise it, when you stick your signs out, unfortunately there is that risk. But you've just got to do it so that it suits you. And I know that's not terribly helpful, but you know, if you can figure out how many you've had booked, do your attendee list so that you can tick it off when they arrive, which is also available on Try Booking under the reports section. So it's really, really handy. And then just take a view on the day, I think might be the best way to do it. But bear in mind, it is your place, so you can go, "No, sorry," politely divert them somewhere else.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions at the moment? I mean, I've got a couple of things to say. If someone has got a question, stick your hand up and I'll stop. But the ticketing service, it really is fantastic, because people, when they get a ticket, they will give you the email address. And yes, we did a whole Zoom about ticketing, but it does mean that if somebody who's booked now, in a couple of weeks' time, or sort of the week before June, they may have forgotten that they've booked tickets. They may have misremembered the date or the time and whatever. So by using the ticketing system, you've got that opportunity to send emails to people to say, "Oh, don't forget, we're looking forward to seeing you at our Open Farm Sunday event. We've got this and that organised." And then, you know, a couple of days before, you can say, "Well, it's looking like it's going to be sunny, so make sure you bring your sunscreen with you." Or you can say, "Well, you know, it may be a case of bringing an umbrella and Wellington boots, but our event's still going ahead. But so you can send that type of communication to remind people and to say, look, we've organised this. This is what we're planning. We're looking at showing you this. So hopefully, when they receive those emails, they think, no, do you know what? I really do want to go and visit that farm on Open Farm Sunday. But swinging it back to health and safety, it's an opportunity as well to talk to people about health and safety through the system. You can say things like, we will have livestock at our event. We will allow people to touch the animals, but please, it is your responsibility. You must make sure that if anyone in your party washes their hand, animals, that they need to wash their hands, and we have got those facilities there. And it's a case of washing their hands with the liquid soap and drying them with the paper towels. And you can put that type of message into the communication through the ticketing system. You can say things like, there will be parts of the farm which are cordoned off, that will be cordoned off. Please respect this. And say that, you know, for families coming with young children, it is the parents' responsibility to actually look after their children, and please make sure that they do not run off on their own. And just those little things you can communicate. And we do know of farmers where, you know, they've done things like, they said, to save on printing out, here's a copy of the map of our farm. And they've been absolutely astounded. There were about a couple of thousand visitors to that event, and they cut their printing down from about, you know, over 1,000 copies of the map, or 800 copies of the map, right down to about 150, because people had actually read the email and read the information. I went to an event last year where they actually said that we're looking for, and this was an event that was taking about 30, 40 visitors on tours at set times. And they said that during the event, these are the 2 people who were health and safety qualified, because they had someone who was health and safety qualified. So they actually put in their ticketing email to people through the ticketing system. They actually put who the health and safety contact would be. So that's quite an interesting way of using it. It just enables you to make sure that communication goes through to everybody. And also, if anything did happen, then, you know, you could say, well, look, we have made every effort to actually inform our visitors before people come, and, you know, put up signs and things like that. So that's something that I would recommend as well. Anything else? Yes. Hello, Susan.
Hello. Could I just ask about biosecurity? I don't think you mentioned. I mean, we've always walked everybody through a footbath. In that, you know, we don't know where people are coming from and what they're bringing, and we're in an avian flu area. We've got poultry. All our birds are, you know, in a covered area, but I think we've got to be, we don't want, you know, microorganisms brought onto the farm. And it's very interesting. I mean, in the past, quite unknown to us, we've had very senior people from DEFRA, RPA, wherever it is, bringing their families to the farm. And they are impressed that we do have biosecurity. I mean, are you recommending biosecurity or not?
Yes, no, we are. There was actually one slide that came up, and Joe did mention it a little bit, that yes, it is definitely recommended to have foot baths with your with the disinfectant, with the liquid in there. So yeah.
Sorry, I may have missed that. I just didn't. And you know, I mean, to me, we've got to protect our stock as well as looking after the visitors. I mean, I think we've got hand washing well and truly sorted, but you know, we don't know what's out there at the moment, and there are all sorts of things about which we certainly don't want on our farms. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and also if you have your own livestock, and you actually have some different livestock that's brought to your farm for the event, which I know that some people do, is considering, and in the handbook it states, you know, keeping it separated and apart, so that there is no, and make sure that if you are getting livestock onto your farm, it comes on clean and it goes off clean, so that you know, no diseases, microorganisms are spread from venue to venue. So yeah, very important. Yes.
Super. Okay, thanks very much.
Anybody else? We're 4 minutes over. Are there any other questions that anyone would like to ask? Does anyone here have pigs that they're looking at showing at their Open Farm Sunday event? No? I won't mention it, but the AHDB have some big signs to say, please do not feed meat or any human waste food to pigs, which is highly important that you can order from their resources. Anyway, so it just leaves me to say a huge, huge thank you to Jo and to Anne, and of course to Jess, who I say thank you to every day. But and of course to you, our host farmers, you're absolutely amazing, and thank you so much for your enthusiasm and for taking part and getting involved with Open Farm Sunday. And if you have any questions, do get in touch with us at any point. And hopefully I might see a few of you at the next Zoom